Thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. And what we'd like to do over the next few months is have these calls as an opportunity to take a deeper dive into the working document for leaders for the Form to Send initiative and to take that deeper dive together. So the purpose is to kind of slow down, go through it. I'm sure many of you have been kind of working through it and already discerning where you're at in your parish, in terms of kind of next steps. But we're all learning together, and I want to emphasize that. We're going to learn from you over these next few months, and there's going to be other ways too that we're learning from you, and we hope this is helpful for you as well as we just look at the vision coming from our bishops together and see what are the questions that maybe we have answers to, and maybe some questions that we need to discern and pray about together and get back to you. We are developing some more FAQs and those types of resources just based on the time that we've spent with many of you already in previous workshops and different conversations. And those have been so helpful, those times for feedback. So we're really looking forward to this month and then in April and May having these calls. And really, as we're moving forward together with this whole vision for Form to Send and this new approach to confirmation and this opportunity to create a culture of family faith formation and re-envision youth ministry together. This is all going to take time. It's going to take a lot of time. I mean, the bishops have been very intentional about building in many years for this work. And as we're trying to support you better and learn how to do that better too, we're really committed to doing whatever will be helpful for you. And so even with these calls, if it helps to just continue a monthly rhythm, if we need to do more and different opportunities, we'll be looking into that. Also, we are putting together a survey, and we'll send that out to you hopefully in the coming couple weeks, by next week perhaps, so that we can also just hear more concrete feedback on what you would find helpful, as we're moving forward. We have our ideas. We have some things we'll share this morning about what's coming in the coming months. But we'd love to hear more of your ideas as well. So just be thinking about that, pray about it as we move forward together. And let's see, I think that's it right now. So again, we're going to take a deeper dive into this working document for leaders. And I'm going to go slowly. We'll pause for questions and conversation after each section. And we'll see kind of where the time brings us. I'd like to kind of move and see if our next calls can go a little bit more deeply into the family catechesis and youth ministry sections. But if we need more time to go through some other parts of the working document, we will. So I'm going to share my screen right now. So there'll be plenty of opportunity for questions today. And if you have things that you're thinking about that you want to share by chat while I'm talking, feel free to do that. Enter it into chat. Also, I will be pausing regularly to ask for questions and insights and any feedback you might have. So, okay, I'm sharing my screen now. It is coming up. The wheel is turning. And I think it should be good. All right. Okay. So what you see here is the latest version of the working document, which I did share last week in the OED memo. And this is updated February 16th. This, again, it's a working document for a reason. It will be updated as need be. I mean, some of the basic pillars, those things are not going to change. But in terms of the information that's provided, deeper depth will update or add, things to a website eventually that we'll have. And thank you all for your patience as the Archdiocese is entering into the reality of a new website. There's a lot of content that is still needing to be added to the public website and things that need to be cleared up on the resources page. And what we would like to do is have just a page dedicated to Form to Send and have all the information very clear on that. So that will be coming as well. But just please be mindful of the OED memo that goes out every week, because we'll try to just keep those links fresh to everything that is related to this Form to Send initiative. So any of you who are familiar with our office, which all of you are, have probably seen these quotes a number of times from me already. but they're important. The Directory for Catechesis, there's a pressing need to frame everything in terms of evangelization as the fundamental principle that guides ecclesial activity as a whole. And then this quote from Dan Salucci, which captures well the emphasis on the family. We can't deny that we've needed a dramatic paradigm shift with how we equip the domestic church to pass along the faith to the next generation. There's no better time than now. And really this first, the introduction to this working document for leaders, for Form to Send, renewing the domestic church, inspiring young disciples to evangelize, this new vision for confirmation. Again, we're pointing to the Directory for Catechesis, our newest Directory for Catechesis, which came out in 2020, which emphasizes very clearly, the importance of catechesis that is evangelizing through and through, and catechesis that engages families and sees the important role of the family in the whole context of catechesis, but then aiming for the goal, which is something that I think we all desire and we've all aimed for in different ways, but the goal of lifelong adult missionary discipleship. None of us has done our formation efforts, our catechetical ministry, just so that young people can receive a sacrament, or just so that they can kind of, okay, they get the sacramental grace and they're moved on and we're done with it. None of us desire that, but the challenge has been how are we called to reorient all our efforts to better really kind of move that needle to lifelong missionary discipleship, something we all desire, we've all been working for, but what can we do to take the next step there? And that's really what this whole initiative is all about. In the lowering of the age of reception to confirmation is not the most important part of it. Most important part of this change of formation. And that's what the second paragraph really gets into at the very beginning of this document. The focus here is on reorienting our evangelization and faith formation efforts around engaging families, parents and children, and adult discipleship formation, with lifelong missionary discipleship as the goal to which all our formation efforts are directed, right? So everything that we're doing for children and young people is meant to be oriented around an axis of adult, lifelong missionary discipleship, right? That we want them to be set on fire for love of Jesus Christ, to be firmly kind of grounded in the embrace of the church, so that they be lifelong disciples and witnesses to the Lord's love, and be evangelizers and desire that formation, which is meant to be ongoing, right? That second paragraph, really emphasizes that aspect of this is kind of where we want to be oriented. And it's not to say we haven't been desiring that, but how do we do that? How do we take a next step in really growing towards that goal and making it very apparent? And I think all of us, know the challenges in how faith formation has been organized generally, at the parish level. It's taken its model from schools, and it's understandable that happened in the history of kind of how parish faith formation developed over the last century. In a large kind of model driving that was schools, but now we're called to really do something new, and in light of the challenges that we see out there, and the opportunities that are there too. And this is all kind of contained in this very beginning part of the document. This last part, it really emphasizes the desire of the bishops, and this is communicated throughout the document, that this isn't something just to kind of figure out logistically, okay, we're being asked to lower the age and kind of do these things, let's just try to make it work. The bishops really want every parish to take the time to pray, to discern, like, where is the Lord calling you to grow in light of this vision, in light of the overall goals and objectives of this vision? And what does that look like as individual leaders? But also, what does it look like as teams working together? And we know the situation of parishes varies a whole lot. So some of you have thriving teams around you. Some of you would be like, I wish I had a team around me. And part of that is going to be maybe who are the volunteers or other people that you can surround yourself with to kind of help you in prayer. And obviously your pastor plays a big role in it. And we know pastors can approach things differently. Some delegate more to PCLs and really rely on their parish catechetical leaders to make more significant decisions. But also our hope is that this can be a prayerful collaboration with pastors and the PCLs and other support staff together, that everybody's praying on these things and taking next steps. It's going to look different at every parish, but we'll dig into that a little bit more. But that's really the first part of this whole this whole project. So those of you who've taken a look at the working document more closely, you know the various parts of it here. So we're going to try to kind of work through the at least first 5 or 6 bullets today and kind of see where we go from that. But before we kind of start diving in, are there any kind of just basic questions or observations based on that first page of the working document, the overall context of what we're looking at? Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. And team flag anything if there's anything on the chat. So this new approach to confirmation and faith formation. So the big emphasis here is on renewing, on the renewal of faith formation. This is something that became very clear and apparent to us as we looked into what other dioceses were doing around the country when it came to faith formation, youth ministry, and especially in looking at the question of confirmation and discerning, what to do with the sacrament of confirmation, whether to lower the age of reception, or what became very apparent to us in looking at all these dioceses was a consistency around the need to renew the overall approach to faith formation in a way that engages families more significantly and also engages young people in the call to discipleship in more meaningful ways. Like, how does youth ministry grow and be strengthened? So that the main question in these dioceses wasn't just a practical one of kind of where do we land with the sacrament of confirmation, but there were deeper issues at stake, in terms of how are we approaching formation generally. And this is a question even for those dioceses that have gone all the way back to restored order, which is something we're not doing, and I can explain that a little bit later. But even those going back to a restored order of the sacraments of initiation, those that have really done it in a more prayerful way realize that it's not just about restoring the order of sacramental prep. It's how we're approaching formation in a way that moves it from, like, the end is not the reception of the sacrament. That's really the beginning in many ways. Obviously, there's certain preparation and everything that we want for the sacraments, but the overall trajectory of faith formation is being formed in the grace that we've already received and living out that grace. Like, there's no end to it, so, but it's a pivot. It's a pivot in many ways, because we've tended to use the sacraments as the beacon points around which formation is required, or really emphasized. Like, you have to do these formation points to be able to receive the sacrament. You have to endure these formation pathways to these sacraments. But where we really want to pivot it as the sacraments are kind of this new source of life, obviously of God's grace and of formation too. So this all kind of fits into this larger picture, and this is why we're emphasizing over and over again, and hopefully it's not just ad nauseum. It's important, this emphasis that regarding the sacrament of confirmation, more important than the change of grade level or age is the change and renewal of faith formation within an evangelizing, catechumenal, and family-oriented perspective. Catechumenal, meaning really that lifelong, that sense of accompaniment, the process of formation that is meant to be ongoing, and where we learn a lot from those that lead OCIA and those that participate in OCIA, that the church is really calling that catechumenal process to be not just simply replicated in the same way, but as kind of an inspiration and model throughout the whole journey of evangelization and faith formation in the long term. So that's really important. And this is where then, in that second paragraph in that section here, where we say, yep, the Archbishop and bishops have decided to shift, the ordinary level age, grade level, and age of confirmation for baptized Catholics in the Archdiocese of Atlanta from 10th grade, 15 to 16 years old, to 6th grade, 11 to 12 years old. But it's in this larger context of a more important change that's happening. And I think it's just important for us just to keep that in mind, keep that in your prayers as well, keep that in the way that you discern what's most important for our next steps in the parish. It's going to be really important to do this. And we know there's a desire to get things kind of right and lined up and just kind of have the plans clear, but make sure the plans are being well informed by what the bishops are asking is most important right now. This bigger change, faith formation within an evangelizing, catechumenal, and family-oriented perspective. And again, it's going to take a number of years to implement. Some parishes have been doing family catechesis for a number of years. They may be more prepared to take next steps more quickly. That's fine. Some have not been doing maybe at least intentional family catechesis. We do believe that many parishes will find out in this process, or will discover just how much you've already been doing to engage families, but to make it more intentional and to build from that, as we're moving forward. And we're here to really support you. The last note of that section is on restored order, and I just want to direct people, for those of you who might have a question about it, to look up the directory for catechesis number 70, because in the directory, in that section number 70, it emphasizes the key role of Episcopal conferences, so our bishops' conference, in the discernment around restored order. We know there have been a number of dioceses around the country that have started to turn to restored order, but it's still a pretty significant minority of dioceses, and the Holy See has actually encouraged that the question be looked at from the Episcopal conference level. This is really the primary reason why the Archdiocese hasn't gone all the way down to restored order yet. It's basically the bishops chose not to do that, and one big reason was because of what the directory has suggested about this being kind of a higher level question, just because we are aware of some dioceses that maybe have gone all the way to restored. Maybe they didn't emphasize as much of the change of formation culture that we're asking for, and then a new bishop comes and changes it back to afterwards. And so the whole approach maybe was missing some fundamental opportunities to really grow and make sense of something that would be restored order. I think what we're doing in this archdiocese here is, with these changes of faith formation and the emphasis on family faith formation and renewing youth ministry, all of these things set us up for whatever might come in the future. If the church in a larger way at the national level really encourages more dioceses to go to restored order, we'll be much better prepared for that, because we will have already made the essential changes, we think, that are really necessary for having a fruitful new approach to formation. That's more kind of engaging the families long term, that's really leaning into discipleship, and so that we'll be in a good place. So these changes that we're making now, are going to be really long-term changes and set us up in a good place for whatever the church discerns kind of moving forward. But our bishops, decided to defer to the national level of the bishops' conference on that question. Any questions or conversations yet? Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah, we have one in the chat from Summer. Are there any materials that will be sent out to parishes to advertise the Form to Send initiative, or will there be only the Archbishop's video? Is there an ETA on those videos being released? It would be wonderful to promote this change at Easter for families who do not come regularly.
Yeah, that's a great question, Summer. Thank you for asking it. We're anticipating it too. my hope was that the videos would be ready now, but they're not. So we're checking with communications to see if it will be possible to have something before Easter. My hope is by the end of the month to have, it would be a general video from the Archbishop that parishes can use at their discretion. So it's not going to be kind of mandated. Every parish share this. It's wherever you're at, if you can make use of this video message from the Archbishop. And then we will develop some other materials to support, more public communications. And we'd love to hear any suggestions too, on what would be helpful. Right now it would be the Archbishop's video would be kind of the main thing. We envision that at least in English from the Archbishop, and then have a Spanish complimentary video communicating the Archbishop's message. And then from there, we're open to other insights and ideas that you all might have. There would also be something shorter that could be used for social media purposes too. Thank you for the question. Good. Anything else? We'll keep moving forward. Y'all are very good students. I know you probably know this document inside and out. Like, why are you talking about it? But it's important for us to kind of go through it slowly, because again, there may be things that you all catch or that we catch as we're going through, to say let's take a moment to dig a little deeper here. So let's look at these planning steps and objectives that have been shared. And that first one, always pray and discern. This is not up there just for show, and it's not up there just as kind of a nice reminder of the things that, yeah, we know that, it's good to pray and discern, but how can we really restore the initiative to God in this work and in everything that we do, right? So the bishops are asking, all the parishes to really review this vision, plan with the leadership, your parish and your school, and pray about where you are as a community, where the Lord is calling you to focus, how you should plan your efforts to prepare for these changes. And the important ask here is to really continue to pray and discern as a team and a community, asking the Holy Spirit for direction at every step. So we, from OED, give you permission to do this. And I would say take this as permission from the bishops to do this work of prayer and to really see it as the work. The prayer is the work here, as Father John Ricardo reminds us in various ways, and reminded our team when we were up there for the leadership immersive, to really allow ourselves to make prayer the work in this effort. And all of us are so gifted in various ways, and whether the wisdom and the experience we've had of working in the church for years and years, and being in ministry for years and years, and even kind of knowing so much of, okay, what needs to be done next, or I've got a good idea here, or and we have so many things to contribute, right? But we want to lay all those at the feet of the Lord. And in this approach to this whole document, to be able to do that continually, so an idea here, and this may not work for everybody, but just thinking through, how to do this practically. What would be a way to do this? Well, one way would be to, if you haven't done it already, take a few weeks with this document. Ask those who are going to be part of the team to discern and implement it, with your pastor, to read the document, but then schedule some times for prayer. Maybe say if it was like 3 weeks, and you take 3 weeks to schedule, maybe half an hour or an hour if you can before the Blessed Sacrament, and to bring a question before the Lord. Bring one question before the Lord, like, Lord, where are we as a community when it comes to this vision right now? And then pray about that with the Lord. Have a journal. Journal kind of what you're hearing in prayer, lights, images, anything like that. But then come back together as a team spend 30 minutes, spend an hour together, going through that as a team prayerfully, sharing, just sharing as a team, like, what did you hear? Sometimes we might not have maybe heard anything in particular, but maybe too that it's something that somebody else shares from their time of prayer, and then that becomes a light for you to contribute. It's just the way the Lord works with us. I mean, we know that the Lord communicates with us in so many ways, right? But to build in the time of silence together as a team, and to start just kind of working through the document together in a very prayerful way. Who knows? Who knows what the Lord will do with that, and you just never know. But expect that the Lord will act. Expect Him to lead you. Expect Him to guide you in various ways. And it may not be even just those times of kind of intentional prayer and sharing together. Maybe the lights come a little later, as you're kind of just bringing this before the Lord. But that's just one way to think about it, especially having the Blessed Sacrament as a key part of that discernment, just to think about, how can we kind of work through this together with the Lord and continue to surrender that to Him. And that would be my suggestion for each of these steps, each of these key objectives in the plan. That first, to develop a culture of family faith formation, establish a family-focused approach to catechesis as a way to begin reorienting efforts around ongoing family and adult discipleship formation. Our recommended first step is to bring that before the Lord and to ask questions like, where have we been doing this already? Maybe where have the gaps been? If we've had a family catechesis approach already, what's going well with it? What might need to be strengthened? Lord, what's the next step for us? If we haven't had a family catechesis approach intentionally, well, those are the questions to say, like, where have we been touching families and helping families and supporting families already? And maybe just not thinking about it. Have we been meeting with parents already, but not really kind of just seeing that as, hey, we're doing family catechesis? Or where can we grow in that? What can be kind of next steps in that? And allowing some time of prayer just to filter through that. There's a lot of information in the end of this document of considerations on family catechesis, and we'll be continuing to share a lot of different things there with various resources that are available, but there's more to come and more to pray about, but to allow that time of prayer to really shed some light, and the discussion and the sharing among your team or whoever you're able to kind of work with. It's a small team or a large team. And the same with re-envisioning your parish youth ministry, which is the second key objective. So, before moving down the age level, grade level of reception for confirmation, we're really asking parishes, first focus on that culture of family faith formation. The recommended 1 to 3 years before adjusting the grade level age of confirmation, to have something in place for 1 to 3 years, knowing that that's going to look different. And then the same with parish youth ministry, at least to be able to have the plan for what should our youth ministry look like when confirmation is not in the picture of high school youth ministry anymore. Have we been overly attached to confirmation in that context, within our youth ministry? Maybe we have, maybe we haven't. Maybe we're in pretty kind of good shape to advance things, or maybe we need to really pray and think about it some more in terms of how should this look like apart from a confirmation context. And we'll be having a lot more support in that area too. But again, to bring this before the Lord first and foremost. I'm going to highlight here too, and I'll probably do it later, so apologize for the redundancy, but if you could just save the date for September 15th, we're going to have a workshop specifically on confirmation and youth ministry and re-envisioning youth ministry. Randy Rouse is going to help us with that workshop. That's going to be September 15th at the Chancery. And then save the date as well for October 29th at St. Peter Chanel. There's a great event, a significant event that Alpha is putting on there. It's called the Every Generation Tour, and it's significantly going to involve youth ministry, and I think be a really beautiful complement to the Form to Send initiative, be a way where youth ministers are interacting with other ministry leaders and really asking questions and praying and discerning about, what are the next steps that the Lord is calling us to grow when it comes to advancing youth ministry. So October 29th at St. Peter Chanel, we'll have more information coming out about that, but those are two already great opportunities coming up in the coming months to think about youth ministry and advancing it. And again, here, like we have such a beautiful culture of youth ministry in our archdiocese and been blessed with Life Teen and blessed with so many of our parishes taking youth ministry seriously, and leaders that have come before us, that have built so many great foundations for this. So we're in a really beautiful place as an archdiocese as a whole when it comes to both kind of how we've been engaging families, how we've been approaching youth ministry, and that's thanks to you all, and thanks to so many of our pastors and just the overall kind of parish context that we have here. So we're in a beautiful place for all this. So I just want a word of encouragement, no matter what anxiety or what nervousness you might be feeling and or feeling ill-equipped. I think as a diocese as a whole, like we've been born for this. We're ready for this. The grace of the Lord is very generous, and He will lead us in this. We're going to learn together, but we're in a really good place. That third objective that we have there, that developing a family-oriented confirmation program or approach, making plans to implement a family-oriented sacramental program for confirmandi and their families, knowing that's going to look different, across our parishes. But a key question is, how are we engaging parents in meaningful ways during those opportunities to form for confirmation? And we'll have more resources. We're already gathering a list of various resources that are out there already that can be adapted for younger ages and adapted also for families when it comes to confirmation prep. So much more to come there. But again, an emphasis there too is first pray about that. Really bring this to prayer, bring this before the Lord. So again, that always pray and discern is not there just as something to skip over. We really want to emphasize that as a constant guiding measure that influences each of our considerations, each objective that we have in this plan, that it be kind of fully covered in prayer and discernment, which is ongoing. And again, as we look to the horizon of this, in really looking beyond 2031, the bishops have placed that date there just as a marker to say, by that time we want all of our parishes implementing this new vision. But there's a longer horizon here that we're all looking at, and it's really about creating this path for missionary discipleship, or we might say creating paths for missionary discipleship, that our parishes are meant to be kind of places where missionary disciples are nurtured and formed and sent out, right? To be these evangelizing centers for missionary disciples through families, through missionary families, through the domestic churches, and through all who kind of are part of the family of God in that parish, are going out and inviting others to Jesus. And so reviewing what we're doing here is almost can be considered like this is the first part of Form to Send. And it's looking at that family catechesis within that K or first grade through fifth grade time frame, and moving to confirmation, which will be kind of moved down to sixth grade, and then having a renewed youth ministry. But that's part of the path. It's not the full path, right? So we want to continue to kind of broaden out that path, thinking of things like, baptismal prep and the accompaniment and the journey there. That's important. And what about marriage prep, marriage support, the ongoing journey of discipleship? The family catechesis aspect will bring out a lot of, I think, opportunities to support parents, or for parishes to become more and more aware of what's happening in the lives of their families, right? But it's also going to be an opportunity to pray before the Lord and say, Lord, like how are we reaching folks that really need some extra help, or these wounds that come forward where the parish is more and more aware of what's going on in family life, and how do we meet that need? The Lord is generous. It's nothing for us to be afraid of. I think the first disposition is going to be one of, Lord, thank you for revealing this, but to be ready for it as a parish and to kind of grow in that longer term effort. This is where we just want to be very clear, like we have to submit all these efforts and surrender them completely to the Lord, strengthening what is working well, what is bearing fruit, and really being able to kind of see what is bearing fruit, Lord, but then having the courage and the realism to adjust what's not working well, what needs to be changed. And this is the spirit of where we're calling every parish to enter into this work. So even as we reach that 2031 time frame where the goal is to have every parish implementing this new vision, but to do it in this spirit of a renewed parish culture, that continues to ask, are we really oriented towards where we need to be, Lord, to where you want us to be? And again, one way to put it is, are we kind of shifting from that perspective of kind of doing programs to really encouraging a longer term path for missionary discipleship, meeting people where they are, meeting their needs, but helping them grow more and more into the Lord. So this is one part of it. This is the part that the bishops have called us to emphasize right now. This renewed approach to confirmation, which is really founded on this renewed family faith formation and a re-envisioned youth ministry. But it'll be a longer term effort as well. So and hopefully that doesn't scare us. It gives me a lot of hope and a lot of excitement just looking forward, because we always want to be growing. We always want to be on that path of conversion, individually and as teams and as communities. So any questions before we get into the timeline? Michelle?
Okay, we've got two in the chat. The first one would be, could you explain the mindset from moving from 10th grade to 6th grade? That's the first question.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, let me go ahead and talk about that a bit now. So, this all began with one of our parishes asking permission to pilot a 6th grade confirmation, but it was based on their experience of having done family catechesis for a number of years and a greater desire for the sacramental grace of confirmation that was coming from the young people themselves and the parents, which I think, just to keep that in mind, this arose out of a very concrete request and concrete desires from people that were experiencing the Lord. And this is what got the bishops and obviously they involved our office in thinking more about this and praying more about it. There was then permission granted for a couple of parishes who asked to pilot 8th grade at the time. And they were given permission for that with the understanding that they would be also building a family catechesis model. So we wanted the parishes to experience what that would look like and the fruits of that in order to till the soil more for a potential younger age of receiving confirmation. And it became clear at the time, too, that we couldn't just think on the front end of that. We had to think of the importance of youth ministry. Like, youth ministry is going to look different if we take confirmation out of, like, certainly high school youth ministry, where it had been kind of in the 10th grade process. So we asked our parishes that were piloting, begin planning, praying about this, what this looks like. The bishops ended up landing on 6th grade, and as for those of you who were there at because we received this question about 6th grade, like why 6th as opposed to 8th, for instance, during the workshop that we had a couple weeks ago, and it's a great question. And at the time, and I think that I said there's no supremely like magical reason for 6th grade. It's not the reason I said that was because confirmation obviously is theologically it's the second sacrament of initiation. So like right now we're out of order in the sacraments of initiation. That means like the more important thing has not really been the age. Like canon law says the age of discretion is the appropriate time for both confirmation and First Eucharist. But we're all familiar with the order of kind of baptism and then receiving First Eucharist before we receive confirmation. It's been a number of years. I think 25 years ago or so, the Archdiocese had moved from 8th grade to 10th grade, and there were various reasons for that that were deemed prudent at the time and wise. But I think since that time, I think there were a lot of reasons for this move down to 6th grade. And this is going to be the content of one of our FAQs that we put up. It's in the working document a little later, but it's maybe not as strong as we can make it, and we'll be supplementing it with some FAQ material too. But we would say, like from the bishop's perspective and our own reflections on it, first, like young people need the grace of the sacrament of confirmation, and so and there's not really a good reason that we've seen to delay that grace inordinately or to keep it, say, in high school from middle school. And I would say just use the analogy of thinking about where middle schoolers are right now in our culture. How many have access to smartphones? How many have access to everything that the world has to offer? And yet we keep them from receiving the grace of a sacrament of initiation, which technically every Christian, that's, receptive to it and well-formed has the right to receive that grace, at the age of discretion. We really couldn't think of a good reason to, even to delay to 8th grade. I mean, one thing of keeping it at 8th grade is, well, that tends to be the year of graduation, right? Everybody's graduating from 8th grade. And one of our concerns with the sacrament of confirmation has been as a graduation sacrament. Like that's the end. Like you're sent off, but it's not clear where you're sent off to. And we may or may not see you again. I know that's the concern with moving it down too, is like, are we going to have an earlier graduation experience? That's why the important thing here is not, the first thing is not moving down the age. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is renewing the way that we're doing formation to make it more evangelizing, more family oriented, and then renewing the way that we do youth ministry as well, and keeping that all clearly in mind, so that in the end, the idea that, 6th grade becomes a really beautiful opportunity to build on the family catechesis efforts that have been happening in the prior years, and it lends itself right to it. It also becomes this beautiful gateway to a renewed youth ministry, and to renewed youth discipleship, and really, calling upon those young people and say, hey, you are disciples now, and you are fully initiated disciples. Like we need you now. We need middle schoolers to be full disciples of the Lord, given the grace of the sacrament of confirmation to witness, in middle school and beyond, to faith in Jesus Christ and what that means for them. And the way our formation mentality to be renewed in that way, that we're like, we see ongoing formation in that grace of the sacrament of confirmation. It's not like confirmation happens and then we don't worry about it anymore. Our formation efforts should still be bringing out, illuminating the power of that sacramental grace, which is alive in us right now. Like we need to be, ongoing catechized in that sacramental grace that we've received in baptism, confirmation, which, for us, it's, the Eucharist is a beautiful kind of renewal of our baptismal and confirmation graces every time we receive Jesus in the Eucharist, because that's where those sacraments are oriented to a Eucharistic life. And if we're married, the graces of that sacrament are built upon the graces of baptism and confirmation and set on fire. And we need to be reformed, ongoing formed, in those areas. So that was the thinking kind of behind this shift downward. But again, it presupposes a more important change. I hope that helps. Gets me excited too. Thanks for the question. Michelle, go ahead.
Okay, so the next comment or question was from JP. When functioning as a separate entity from confirmation programming, is family catechesis component also intended to be implemented within the regular 6th through 12th youth ministry programming?
So no, JP, it is not. So when we talk about family catechesis in a very targeted way here, we're really looking at for the children involved in that, the age range is like kindergarten through fifth or first through fifth grade, just in a practical way. That said, I mean, we also recognize like family catechesis isn't just this kind of, okay, you just do it here and that's it. It's like, well, the family, the domestic church has its whole entire life. You know, family catechesis is ongoing in the larger sense of it. But as we're looking at the parish support and leadership for that, we're looking at that specific age range. Once we move into a more of a youth ministry format, what we would encourage is, okay, what does youth ministry look like within this renewed culture of family faith formation and evangelization, where, yeah, we're not expecting, say, youth ministry to now, okay, every parent, you know, attend all the youth group meetings, or, you know, be there with your adolescent who is embarrassed with your presence and that type of, like, we're not asking that. But what we would encourage parishes to do is pray more about, well, youth ministry has always been supplemental to what happens in the home. It's always been supplemental to family evangelization and catechesis. And we need to recover that a bit, you know. So like, what does that mean? Well, it means like everything that the youth minister is doing with those young people should be supporting what the parents are doing at the home. We realize that's not a perfect kind of thing, and sometimes the youth group maybe becomes an oasis, you know, outside of a highly dysfunctional kind of family setting. But the idea there too is that if the youth minister is aware of kind of what's happening in the home, you know, there's deeper intentionality when it comes to prayer and other kind of ministries, and maybe kind of ways that the parish can reach out to the home. But we want youth ministers to be keyed in this mindset of, you know, we are collaborating with the parents here. And there may be opportunities in the youth group setting. There will be opportunities. For instance, you know, like for maybe some praise and worship sessions, you know, before adoration, or examples of like where can parents be intentionally involved or engaged in certain ways during the youth ministry journey, so that family, it's not like this strict separation between family catechesis is this age group, and then we just move like youth ministry and we don't think about families or parents anymore. No, like, how are we being more organic in thinking of that role of youth ministry? Yes, adolescents will benefit from some more separation from parents and being with their peers in that sense. But, you know, the parents are still the most influential person in their life. So how is youth ministry supporting that and thinking through that? That's where I would just add that caveat. When we talk about like 6th grade through 12th grade, or, you know, after confirmation, that youth ministry programming, we're not asking that like a separate track of family catechesis be happening at the same time as that. When we think of kind of more of the path that the parish offers, we're looking at more K through 5, then the confirmation prep, and then launching into a youth ministry foray, but still thinking very intentionally about family life, about the importance of parents, even though that's going to look different. Patrice, Michelle, anything to add to that, or does that cover it?
I think that covers it. Patrice, anything to add?
That's a good question.
Okay.
No, I think that's good.
Okay. The next one is, well, first a comment from Gabby at STM about Julianne Stans, who is a wonderful resource from Loyola Press, and her book Start with Jesus. She said it's been a great help for her to move towards evangelizing family catechesis, and she recommends that. From Marissa.
Thanks, Gabby.
From Marissa, practically speaking, what does it look like to, quote unquote, move away from programs and put people on a path, quote unquote, path of discipleship, especially at larger parishes?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll also, I mean, there's probably a lot of people way more qualified than I am to talk about that who have concrete experience with that. I'll give one observation and maybe kind of open it up to colleagues and others. I think a big part of this is discerning the connecting points between kind of these different areas of ministry, or where we've traditionally kind of divided up ministry areas, where we have maybe children and young people, the faith formation for children and young people, and we have youth ministry. Maybe we have young adult ministry, maybe not. The hope is that there's something kind of going on, something intentional with adults, or sometimes it just kind of transfers into adult ministry, that type of thing, adult faith formation, for instance. And the tendency, and it's understandable for all of us, we approach these areas, we kind of have our responsibilities, and we try to do them the best that we can. And then once people finish, once they're their age out of the program, it's like, they're gone, and we're focusing on those that are before us. I think what I've seen, with parishes that really try to develop a path of discipleship, is that they're thinking of the connections in the importance of relationships, for instance, too. And like, how are we fostering people like knowing each other more, really feeling like they belong to the church as a community? Like, it's not just kind of going through a program to get through a program. So for instance, with family catechesis, what we've seen and what I've seen in my own parish is that, yes, you might have a lot of people kind of approach it in a more traditional way at first, in the sense of, I got to do this to get to X, Y, and Z, to get my child sacrament, I'm going to go in here. But they come out of it with, wow, I didn't realize I would know all these families, know all these people. And I go to Mass now and I see all these families that we've been to Mass together for years, but I never knew them. I never recognized them. I never recognized their faces. I never looked for them, or in these types of relationships that begin to build. I would say that's a sign, an indicator of something that's moving from, program mentality to, we're establishing deeper relationships and deeper connections. Some parishes will use small groups to develop that. Others, I think all of us need to discern too, what's the baton being passed? Say for like confirmation, from a family catechesis context going into confirmation, how are those young people with their parents being encouraged to take a next step in discipleship after they receive confirmation? For some parishes, it may mean, well, let's expand, say, the program or the approach, the faith formation approach, a little bit longer, so that it doesn't just end at the reception of the sacrament, but let's build in this invitation and encouragement to, hey, take a next step with our youth group, or with other things that we're calling young people to actually take a leadership role here in the church. Like, we're inviting different liturgical ministries to be maybe open to some of our young people now, or different ways to serve the community. And if we become more intentional about that, then a baton is being more clearly kind of handed on for, like, we need you young people as full members of our church to really live that out. And it may or may not be the youth group setting, but it may be another aspect that's part of the overall part of youth ministry and youth discipleship. Or it may be kind of, really taking that next step in the youth ministry group. But those are just some reflections I would have. I don't think there's any scientific formula. A lot hinges on, are we approaching it in an evangelizing way, and the accompaniment that the church needs to offer through the parish that establishes a longer life of relationships and a sense of belonging. Patrice, you got any thoughts?
Well, yeah, the only thing I would add, that was beautifully explained. The only thing I would add to that too would be, I just refer back to the 4 pillars of the domestic church, which is something that you can be growing in every area of the church that pretty much connects everyone together. So we have those posted on our beautiful website somewhere. Maybe we can put them somewhere in the chat or close to where this will be posted. Again, which are those 4 pillars of making opportunities for families to pray together at church, be a small group, and then pray with other families, having social things happening at the parish, having things that are opportunities to have for families to share their reflections, on scripture or to share their stories, their faith stories with other families. And then what was the last one? Service. Service is an easy one. You can start with service instead, so, and that can be applied in high school age, middle school age, lower grades, or throughout the parish. That's just one of those that those 4 pillars build relationships within the family and across the whole entire church family. So I would just refer back to those. So that's not necessarily a program, but it's more of a broadening and envisioning. And again, going back to your prayer about how your particular parish, with your resource, with who's there, with your experiences, where are you most comfortable starting to kind of provide some of that?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Patrice. And Michelle.
Do you want to finish off? I got a couple more in the chat, or
Yeah,
because we're at time.
Let's do that, and then we'll kind of wrap up things for now,
Okay.
y'all, and we'll have plenty of time to keep going as we move forward.
Okay. So the next one is from Kelly in regards to sacramental guidelines. She knows that we'll be updating those as part of the new initiative. Do you, at this point, have any feeling for the number of years requirement for, say, First Communion and confirmation, and will those be maintained?
Yeah, right. Good question, Kelly. Thanks for the question. Right now there's no changes yet envisioned for First Communion, but when it comes to confirmation, we do envision the 2 years of kind of the ordinary faith formation, which would be kind of a family catechesis model. That would still be the expectation. So that will remain the case, but within that kind of renewed family catechesis perspective. And then the guidelines will still recognize that specific confirmation prep, specific sacramental prep, and for those of you who, if you need to kind of look, I mean, it's not going to change a whole lot from our current guidelines. We want to distinguish the reality that we would love to have people continue their family catechesis formation in a parish, from wherever it starts, whether it's a child in kindergarten or first grade, but with their parents, like continue that all the way up through confirmation, realizing that sometimes that's not going to be the case. We're still asking for that at least 2 years of ordinary family faith formation to happen. That's distinct from the specific preparation for confirmation that should be of briefer duration. Now we know that some parishes will market everything kind of as a package, and we're not going to say that can't be done, but just to allow parishes to make sure kind of everybody understands that the briefer preparation for confirmation is a distinct kind of reality. What we do aim to do is update some of the content, the topics to be considered. I mean, there's some of it is obviously not new, as the theology of the sacrament of confirmation, catechesis around it is not new, but there are some new emphases, some things to be thinking about. For those of you who are at the presentation on confirmation during our family faith formation workshop day, we discussed some of those, and we'll share that link. Those slides are available online too, and with Patrice's presentation on creating a culture of family faith formation, where she talks about the 4 pillars, those links will continue to be in the OED memo for the weeks to come until we have a set, clear page for form to send on the new website. So, but yeah, so that those 2 years are still kind of envisioned, Kelly. So thanks for that. And I see Amy had a question about Virtus requirement for adults being with children. How does it affect the program and offered for family faith formation? So basically, Amy, like what we've worked out with our Safe Environment Office here and with Jenny, with all of our family catechesis program, correct me if I'm wrong, colleagues, but we've basically said that, yeah, the official parish catechists will still have this, need the Safe Environment Virtus training, background check, that type of thing. But parents who are there with their children, do not need that in order to be part of the family. So like if your family catechesis is modeled similarly to what we do with families forming disciples, what we recommend at least with that, where it's the groups of families meeting together with catechists. In those situations, it'd be like going to mass together. we don't ask for safe environment check. Now, that said, all parents are welcome and encouraged to receive that training because it's super helpful in so many other ways. So we highly encourage it, but the Archdiocese has not asked that it be required, in those situations where you have the parents with their kids together. Michelle, is there anything? Yeah, we're hearing.
Roberta was saying that the struggle to find service opportunities that would be group friendly or family friendly is a difficulty. And Joyce was suggesting that perhaps we do either, I'm suggesting at this point, maybe a part of our FAQ, or we take one of our other meetings that we have with our PCLs and brainstorm different things.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's plan to do that.
I would also add that the deanery gatherings are great opportunities there. If you're not already plugged into a deanery gathering or participating in that, is a great opportunity to meet with other parish leaders and to come up with great ideas together that really works for your region, and maybe even collaborate on some of that together. We can come up with ideas, but usually you all come up with excellent ideas. And I think being plugged in right now especially would be helpful for a lot of the parish leaders that maybe haven't done so in the past, to kind of get plugged in so that we can accompany each other and help each other out that way on a more of a grassroots ground level in your area. Just a suggestion if you haven't taken advantage of that yet.
And I'm in the process. It's on my first on my list of things to do is get the next 3 meetings at every deanery set up. So that information will be, solidified and out to you guys as soon as we can. And then Amy had another thing about this one is a great one. Wrote letters to seminarians around the USA to encourage them, and we even got letters back. Isn't that awesome?
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah. We all these questions and insights too are super helpful for us. Keep them coming, over the coming weeks. Email us, give us a call. And we will pick back up on going through the working document in the coming months, just to allow this opportunity to get your feedback and get your questions too. I do want to mention as well, like I will be reaching out to every pastor individually, and this is probably going to happen. I'm going to have it done completely before Easter, so it's really in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Reaching out to every pastor, just making sure that they have the working document, which has been shared already. If they have any questions, they can reach out to us, and that we're happy, again, to come out, to meet, to have conversations, whatever's helpful for you all and for your teams. We will be communicating a survey soon of leaders to get your feedback, so just be on the lookout for that. I know this Lent is a busy season, but we will appreciate any feedback you have there. And, in addition to those save the dates that I shared for September 15th and October 29th, which will be really helpful sessions, especially on youth ministry. We are looking at early fall or late summer, really late summer, to kickstart some of what we're seeing as kind of a new certification model and a foundational certification. So we'll try to communicate those dates soon, but this would be kind of beginning to renew our approach to catechist certification and just our support for you all as well, and for your ongoing formation, and doing some formation around the ministry, spirituality, the identity of the catechist, inspired by the Directory for Catechesis, also the spirituality of family life, which will be really important in a family catechesis context, and then also to provide a session on the sacrament of confirmation, so a deeper dive, than what I had done, at the workshop a couple weeks ago, but building on that too, and allowing an opportunity to think about the sacrament of confirmation in a new light. That's where we're looking at starting, and some of that will come hopefully near the end of August, so just be on the lookout for that. But we are interested in your ideas on ways that we can support you and help you, so responding to that survey that's coming out, and all your feedback is really appreciated. So thank you so much, y'all. Patrice, Michelle, is there anything else before we close?
Just a note from Maggie in disabilities. If anybody needs a service project, they need notes of encouragement to persons in immigration detention centers. Also, many of those persons need funds to be able to call home, English and Spanish. So if you have any questions on that, please reach out to Maggie Rousseau in disabilities.
Thank you, Maggie. And we are also going to be working with Maggie to see what information can be helpful from the disabilities ministry perspective as we're thinking about these changes moving forward with formation. And we're also working with Yolanda Munoz and Ashley Morris and Intercultural Ministries, and especially kind of looking at some of the questions that are rising. Yolanda's had a good sense of kind of what are some of the questions from our Hispanic communities and leaders serving those communities. So we're working closely with her as well to establish proper support as we're moving forward with everybody. And so with that, y'all, thanks for your time and for staying with us a little over an hour. And how about we close in prayer? In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Father, we give you thanks for all of these leaders who have said yes to your call. We just ask your gracious blessing to be upon them, to build them up, to encourage them in your love and in the ministry that you have called them to. Lord, bless our work. May it be fruitful according to your will. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless you all.